the Big 12 is just absolutely on fire. Absolute madness. Ross Dellinger does an awesome job for Yahoo Sports, and he, on Saturday night, when that final game ended, or we had like kind of a better gauge for how this final weekend was going to look as it pertains to conference title stakes, gave us a lot of breakdowns for, okay, well, Georgia's in, it's winner of A&M and Texas will play for the SEC championship. You got the Big Ten where Oregon's punched their ticket. If Ohio State beats Michigan, they're in. And then he got to the Big 12, and he's like, I think the way that he phrased it was everyone needs a beverage is the way that he phrased it with how that would shake out. We're going to do our very best here to break down the Big 12 scenario madness. Caden Smith, producer for The Hard Count, he and I got in the lab this morning and just went through this thing step by step like an algebra equation. So here's the scenarios for who could end up representing who in the or for who could represent the Big 12 in the conference title game. So what you need to know is there are 4 6-2 teams in the conference. So again, that's conference record. Just forget everything when it comes to the overall record. From a conference record, you have 4 6-2 teams. That is Arizona State. They are -9 this weekend against Arizona. You got Iowa State, favored by 2.5 against Kansas State. BYU, favored by 12.5 against Houston this weekend. And then Colorado, -16.5 against Oklahoma State. So those 4 teams, Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, 4 6-2 teams that are at the forefront of this discussion. So here's the easiest scenario. Here is the way that I think most people would like it to work out for their brain. Not for their rooting interest, just for their brain until I have to go into overdrive. The easiest scenario here is if any 2 of those 4 teams win and the other 2 lose, the winning teams are your conference title reps. So no matter how you dice it up. Colorado, they win. BYU and Iowa State lose. Then Arizona State wins. Colorado, Arizona State in your conference title game. That's just one variation of it. But again, you hear what I'm saying. Any 2 of those teams win. Any 2 of those teams lose. Pretty cut and dry, your conference title game. Now here's kind of the honors level scenario that we need to unpack. If all 4 of those teams win, Arizona State, Iowa State, they're your conference champions, or your conference championship game representatives. Here's where things get a little bit Lindsay Lohan Freaky Friday. If 3 of those teams win, but 1 of those 4 teams lose, we got some madness. So we'll break that down team by team. If all 3 if the 3 teams that win are Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, and then Colorado loses, you still have Arizona State and Iowa State. Now, if Arizona State is the team of that group of 4 that loses, you would have BYU versus Iowa State. If Iowa State is the team that loses of those 4 6-2 teams, you would have Arizona State versus BYU. We all tracking? Gosh, I hope so. I pray that we all are. Here's where it gets really, really nuts. Here's where you gotta like, if you have a cup of coffee next to you right now, I would encourage you to drink it. If you have a loved one next to you, make sure you tell them you care about them, because here we go. Here's the madness scenario. If you have 3 of those teams win, but the losing team is BYU, so Colorado, Iowa State, Arizona State, but BYU loses, here's where we go. Again, you buckle your chin strap. We're paying attention to West Virginia versus Texas Tech for tiebreaker purposes. So if West Virginia wins that game, and again, this is all in the world of BYU being the one team of those 4 that loses, you would have a conference title game of Arizona State and Iowa State. So again, if you're doing the math in your head here, Arizona State, Iowa State, still the most likely Big 12 title game scenario. However, if Texas Tech beats West Virginia, then you have Colorado and Arizona State playing each other. Again, all in the context of BYU being the one team of those 4 that loses. If Texas Tech wins that game versus West Virginia, you would have a Colorado versus Arizona State Big 12 title game. One more thing. If Texas Tech wins, you would have Colorado versus Arizona State unless both Baylor and Cincinnati get wins on Saturday. Baylor plays Kansas. Cincinnati plays TCU. So if Tech wins, and then Baylor wins and Cincinnati wins, all under the umbrella of, again, BYU being the 1-6-2 team to lose out of Colorado, Iowa State, Arizona State, and BYU, you would then have the conference title game of Colorado versus Iowa State. Are we all tracking? I think we're tracking. If not, the beautiful part about YouTube is you can go back, you can get out your scratch piece of paper and write this down and try and keep track of all the madness. Again, this is nuts. Whoever put the Big 12 tiebreakers together, I have to believe was just like, it'll be good. Don't even worry about it. There's no way that we have 4-6-2 teams going to last week of the season. So much so, in fact, that we only got the tiebreakers, I believe it was like last week. Like last week, they're like, okay, here's how it would work. I hope it doesn't go out this way, but here you go. Do your best. Now, I hesitate to even say this because we just talked through so many different scenarios. Here's the one thing I'll say. There are 5-3 teams within the Big 12 conference that have a chance to be in the Big 12 title game if and only if 3 of those 4-6-2 teams we just talked about, Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, if 3 of those teams lose, the door is propped open. Now, we could legitimately fill a probably an hour show unpacking those scenarios. We're not going to do that, but just know there's 5-3 teams in the Big 12 conference where if you get chaos, and again, all those 4 teams I mentioned are favored this weekend. If 3 of them were to lose, that would be the most 2024 college football season thing ever. But if it happens, the door is propped open for some 5-3 teams to get in the dance. And then we have a chance for a 5-3 conference team to find their way into the college football playoff by winning the Big 12. I mean, God bless the Big 12. We tweeted this. I'm going to have to go find this. I tweeted out before the year, hey, rest in peace to the Pac-12. But the Big 12 now may run where the Pac-12 was walking. They have lived up to the hype of filling the entertainment gap that may have been left from the Pac-12. Pac-12, they're bouncing back soon. Love to see it.